Hey all, here at OS Reviews. As the world starts to reopen and we're all looking forward to traveling again, today we're taking a look at a smart translator gadget called the Vasco M3 that will allow you to communicate when you're going somewhere new and also learn new languages as well. It comes in a variety of colors, which are all fairly attractive, including a kind of ice blue and also the more traditional black and white. And it also has a built-in eSIM, which comes included, that has lifetime support. So regardless of if you're in the US, in Europe, or Asia, you should be able to still translate between those languages without connecting to a Wi-Fi hotspot, just anywhere outdoors, which is very cool. It also has a built-in camera, so it has image translation if you want to scan a text. It can also translate that, and also you can record phone calls and translate them. It has a 2-inch touchscreen display. Technically, it's running on a version of Android, and has a loudspeaker as well, and supports 70 different languages currently. Technical specs include a quad-core processor. Of course, it doesn't really matter since it's just running behind the scenes, and for basics translation, it's more than enough. Has 1 gig of RAM, 16 gigs of built-in storage. Opening it up, right on top we'll see the M3 translator, inclusive of a USB Type-C charging cable, wall adapter, as well as a silicone case that you also get for the translator, which is a nice little extra. You'll also find a quick start guide along with some warranty information. Returning to the M3 translator itself, again, it has a very clean design, and actually the entire thing is coated in a layer of soft touch rubber, so even without the case, it feels actually quite grippy and comfortable in the hand, protecting it from fingerprints as well as smudges. And on the rear here we can see the camera for the photo translation, as well as a built-in flashlight. There's also the loudspeaker. We also have a lanyard strap, and it's kind of asymmetrical from a profile view. As you can see, they're cut off from the top and the bottom edges, but the bottom portion here will house a Type-C charging port and a standard 3.5mm headphone jack if you want to listen to things in private. Although it's worth noting that there is no built-in Bluetooth, it seems, on this model, so connecting to wireless buds is a function that is currently not supported. Now on the very top here we do also have another microphone pointing at the other person. There's also a tactile volume rocker. Then on the other side, we have a power key on the top, which we can hold on for a few seconds to turn it on, along with a back button on the side here as well. So right now it's going to kind of boot up here for us. We can see that also the buttons on the front are backlit as well, and they will correspond to one for yourself and one for the other person to translate between the two languages back and forth. Alright, so as it's going through the final setup screen, we are greeted to just an oversized clock, and we can swipe on the screen here basically to unlock it, so it doesn't do any accidental translations if the screen here is turned off, for example. So it really is just like Android. In fact, if we long hold on the power key for a few seconds, you can see it will tell us to power off or reboot. So from here, we're able to see the two languages that we're currently set at. For example, we can choose between English right now and then Chinese on the other side. If I wanted to change the other language, I can tap there and go through the other options that are presented. So here is the full list in alphabetical A to Z orders. Afterwards, it will be set, so it's overall pretty responsive in terms of swiping on the screen. We can also swipe down like this. That allows us to see our reception strength for the SIM, cellular data, as well as we can turn Wi-Fi on or off. We can also access a LED torch using the flash, which is a nice little extra, and the battery percentage remaining. So very simple, and we can basically just begin pressing these two keys to do an instant translation. So let's do a quick test now. This is a test of the translation capabilities. There we are. So it is relatively fast in terms of the process, but you have to wait a split second longer for it to read it back out aloud to you. And you have to also give it a second of patience. If you press and immediately start talking, you might miss out the first word, as you can see there. But after you get the hang of it, it overall is pretty easy to use, and we can respond. Gracias, muy bien. And there we are. We see the translation has also been done. So just a little bit longer for the reading out loud, but afterwards it works as expected and shows your full history of conversations that you've made on here. If you wanted to, you can also tap on the settings icon there to share the conversations with other people. And you'll be able to enter an email address, and it will send that as a PDF attachment over to your email. So this is what the keyboard looks like. It's in the T9 layout. So as a quick demo, it sent over the transcript in an earlier test as this PDF. And there we have it. We can see the words translated between the two languages that we've selected, English and Chinese in this case. Easy to keep a record of if you're using it for notes. And then the bottom key here is the back button, so we can tap on there just to go back by one page. Now to try some of the other translation modes, we can tap on the icon there on the main home screen, and we can hop into something like Photo Translator, for example. So we'll translate whatever is on the image that we've taken with the camera into, say, English, or we can tap again to go into a different option. So if we tap on OK, it will then open up the camera, and we can also add grid lines or hide grid lines. We want to translate this region of a poem here. We can see that it's pretty sharp right now, and if I'm satisfied, I can just tap on the shutter key there down below. Pretty simple stuff. Afterwards, we can tap on confirm, and it is worth noting that the photo translation mode though only works via Wi-Fi. And a split second longer, you'll see that it has replaced the Spanish words with the English translation on top. You can also take images in the horizontal orientation, and it still captures it, as you can see there. Here's a larger paragraph. It's just going to be pretty small on this display, so you have to do a fair amount of zooming to make everything more legible, but it still can be read. So if you are, say, traveling and you see something in a museum, or more realistically, if you're at a restaurant or something and you want to scan the menu or the bulletin board, this can be pretty useful. So this is a regular paragraph that is a lot easier to translate, although maybe one thing I would like to see would be the ability for you to save the translations on the memory or send it via email again to your phone as backup, because right now if you take a new image, it just overrides the previous one. A few of the other modes here, we have the learning function, which allows you to learn some basic phrases and words and then test you on the pronunciation using the microphone. So it's pretty fun. It's kind of small flashcards. So right now we started a first Chinese lesson, and it's telling us how to say certain months as well as certain days of the week in the local language, and I can tap on lesson again to basically try and advancing into the next lesson plan. I can tap on view to see the actual text there in Chinese, and it will also read it back out loud to us just by tapping on it again. And overall, you can also tap on the icon there, basically to advance onto the next one. Here's the full list of languages that you can learn, by the way. So it tells you right now our progress. We've started learning the Chinese, but there's also other ones on here as well that you can also go through. So it's pretty much the same list as the languages that you can translate between. There's also another app called Multi-Talk, which basically allows you to create kind of a social media group for other owners of Vasco translators, and you can either join a group or create your own and then have a conversation with other owners, kind of like a walkie-talkie function, which is kind of interesting as an additional app that you have. And under advanced settings, you're also able to see if there's any firmware updates, connect to Wi-Fi, and overall, again, it's sufficient in terms of the fluidity of the UI. In terms of just using it, it doesn't feel too frustrating, and everything still flows along here just fine. The back key on the side here can also be pressed just to go into the main home screen. And that's it. Just like other smart translators we've seen, it is locked down, so you aren't able to access, let's say, a web browser or watch videos or anything like that. They're trying to make the processor work as much as possible for the translation to still make it run smooth. Returning briefly now to the regular voice translation, again, there's microphone for the other person and for yourself on the bottom, and even if you're in a slightly noisier environment, it still does a good job of usually picking up and isolating your voice. The accuracy of the translations is basically a reflection of how well Google Translate and other cloud translation engines work at the moment, which is to say getting better day by day as advancements in AI and natural language processing continues to develop, but it might not be 100%. Certain phrases which are more local or in slang might be harder for it to completely translate, but everyday phrases, things like hello, where can I get, some food at the store, or directions, all of that can be handled really without any problems. So let's demo something a bit trickier. Hello, this is a test of a more complex translation. We are going to use several sentences here, and let's see how it does.
Hola, esto es una prueba de una traducción más compleja. Vamos a utilizar varias frases aquí y vamos a ver cómo lo hace.
The translation here in Spanish is fairly accurate compared to what I said in English, although you can see that it's a little harder for it to pick up some punctuation, such as periods or question marks. So for that, you have to be a bit more deliberate or go through phrases a bit more. But overall, again, the main idea has been translated really without any issues. Anyone that's listening or seeing this shouldn't have a problem in terms of understanding you. The phone translation translation mode, by the way, is also perhaps useful as a conversation mode. For example, if you don't want to always hit on these buttons to translate it sentence by sentence, you can use that mode to record an entire meeting or say a conversation that you're having, and afterwards it will give you kind of a transcript version of what one person is saying and the other person says, as long as it's restricted to 2 languages. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Vasco V3 Smart AI Cloud Translator. There's definitely a lot to like here, including the unlimited cloud translation using the cellular data, which is very valuable because you won't always be in an area that has Wi-Fi, in addition to having a user interface that's simple to operate and also a construction that's soft and easy to hold. So if you're looking for something like this, you can check out more details in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Vasco M3 Translator.